Okay, so moving on. Black men, black men. If you consider black men from a human perspective, now I get it. We're all human, right? But the thing is that we all have different human experiences. And as a black man, especially coming from Waukesha, I've gone through the gamut of being in a predominantly white place and seeing how white people live and kind of sort of emulating it. I'm not white, so as a parent, so people's subconscious biases, especially the adults. At the time I was young, I was like a teenager, but you notice the difference of how you treat it, and sometimes you gotta look at yourself and be like, yo, I didn't do anything different from other people, so. And maybe there are other differences layered on top of that, but you get reminded of your status in society, which reminds me sort of Jordan Peterson, where he speaks about in one of his books, 12 Rules to Life and Antidote to Chaos. And he says there's something in your mind that takes count of your social status. And I think that's very true. It's what people call the pecking order. Okay, I'm like right here. I know Josh is like all the way up here, and people love Josh a whole lot. I know I'm like right here, and people don't like me like that. But being black just complicates it a little more, because you wonder, like, man, why is he like that? Why is he so popular? I don't know. Who knows? I couldn't tell you. I wasn't a popular kid, but it's very interesting about those dynamics, because they do play a part, whether you want to believe it or not. It's just it's if you've lived, which is kind of interesting to me, because like even with the parents of bullies and stuff like that, you notice they if they haven't decided that, like, yo, my actions were kind of wrong last time, you notice they kind of double down. They're like, yo, people should be bullied. It builds character. It's like, well, were you bullied? And maybe there's a good chance that he might have been bullied. But like, he's like, yeah, and I turned out right, even though he got some subconscious problems about, people stepping up to him, or got a hair trigger of anger or whatever. Who knows? But those dynamics, they do play a part. So back to it, the social status, social aspect. Some people say it's they date for status. That's only part of it. The black man psyche, in my opinion, is just as complex as any other man. It's just, it's part of our dynamics as black men in America and the U.S. And the person in the Caribbean, they got their own perspective. The person in the continent of Africa got their own perspectives, because they got a bunch of countries over there. So that's why I said the black Asian dude, the black dude who happens to have half Asian, he has his own perspective. So they all have their own perspectives, and how people cultivate those young minds and how they grow up is how they'll perceive themselves and preferences in respect to other people. Now I remember this dude. I'm not sure if I should mention him though, but he has this video called, he has this book called, is it Black Japan or Gaijin or Gaikokujin? But he's a mixed black and Japanese person, and he has his outlook, and he, in a sense, I think he leaned in to his blackness, and given his Japan and homogenous and how ignorant they can be about differences, and just like there's people who speak Japanese and you're like, you black, bro? And he's like, I'm Japanese, I've always lived here. So it's like, and yes, they've never had to deal with that stuff. It's a complicated thing, but again, my point is just like, black people throughout the world have a perspective that involves them in regards to their environment around them. It's what W.E.B. Du Bois spoke about in Double Consciousness. I spoke about this before in like a video, some other stuff. But yeah, in relation to the white person, the young white girl, Becky and whatnot, black men do see white women as attractive, just like everybody else, because they're pretty, they're girls. The thing is just like, ironically, even in 2022, people kind of aren't ready for interracial relationships. Not even our own people sometimes. Not even, and sometimes the scene is just like, I don't want to say jealousy, but it really looks like it from my perspective. Could it be betrayal? I don't know. I would love to have a black woman's perspective on this, because I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a black woman, so I don't know how that looks. But from a male perspective, we're kind of cut and dry sometimes. And if it's not based off like any race relations or like fear relations, or a cultural preference or a cultural upbringing that just was involved with white people, then I'm not even sure where I was going with that. But yeah, I don't think it's self-hatred. I don't really like the term self-hatred, because it suggests that they hate themselves so much. And the thing is that it's, again, our culture is very hurt, is poorly developed, it's in trauma, a lot of trauma. And so I'm not surprised that black people have, particularly black men, especially as our roles as men who happen to be black, deal with trauma and self-hatred. I just would not be surprised by that. But I don't think many black men will come to that conclusion, and I don't think it is from a period of, I hate myself so much, I'm gonna date somebody else outside the race just so I can get rid of this blackness. The thing is you're always gonna be black, and your children will be black, no matter who you date. And that's just due to this American style of racism, the one drop rule. Because technically Trevor Noah's half white, but in America he's always going to be black, because he's not perceived as white passing, And so that's a shame in it of itself. But our culture, I understand that there are some people who have been through so much trauma within their own community that they want nothing to do with it. And I think just given our history of self-hate, and it's not self-hate where we date outside or anything, it's self-hate where we do date inside, and inside just has a lot of pain on both sides, on both genders, both sexes. It's just so much pain there that they'll do anything to leave, to get out of that situation, whether it's having single mother, baby mama drama, or whatever, or screaming matches, fights. And I'm not saying that I've experienced the full brunt of that. I just know it's happening. It's happening. And I'm not saying that I would love to contribute to that. I wouldn't. It really wouldn't matter who I date, so long as this person's a decent person and she's pretty, And at the same time, even then, I'm trying to be a little more realistic with that, because, you can't, if you don't get your stuff together, you won't always have options like that, So it's like the dating outside of race is still complex, and race just further complexes it, especially in a society that claims itself to be integrated, but is pretty segregated. Excuse me. So I guess that's it for that video. So I'm saying it's not that deep. It sort of is, it sort of ain't. But yeah, black men aren't having a preference due to some deep-seated self-hatred. Like, yes, we're a minority, but like, I don't think that's the case unless it's trauma-based. And usually that is sometimes the case. It's trauma, it's just persistent, ongoing pain where they just want to leave that place that they experienced it at. And this is also for black women too, but again, I'm not a black woman. I can't speak for them. I even support the Black Girl Follow training on TikTok. So I'm just saying it from my perspective that like dudes be going through it and they just want some relief. So yeah.